Now, James Mason against Frank Marshall. Okay, played rook c1, and now a very interesting move was played here. If I give you 5 seconds, what would you play here with white? With black, rather. Okay, knight takes g4. White played queen takes g4. Knight takes d3. Check. And now black is actually doing very well. Bishop takes f5. Bishop b4. So there's a double attack on queen. But this is just taken. Queen takes b4. Yeah, black's attack is good here. Check. Check. Rook d4. So now mate freeze threatened with bishop e6 and rook g4. White played rook g1. Check. Right, so actually a double check. Rook f3. Check. Bishop d5. So it's coming round again. There's check again. h6 check. And here it's like a forced mate. So king h5. Bishop f7. It's going to be mates like this. Cute. Okay, in this next example, playing black against Harry Nelson Pillsbury, again 1903, white has just played rook b2, a very strong move from black here. Okay, black's already doing well, he's the exchange up, but it's a great move that's played here. I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay, rook b8. Sometimes hard to win in one game, so rook b8 is instructive because it's offering back the exchange basically, but ripping white apart. After takes, rook takes d2. Here, running with check, rook d1. Now, if king f2, well, that's illegal. Sorry. King g2, knight takes e3, king f2 here, knight g4 check. I think this is the point I was trying to make. King e2, there's always rook h1, but this knight is kind of in trouble. If knight f2, we take, depending on knight. So after the check here, yeah, we've got this passed pawn now. It makes things easier. Check, e3, and the game continues like this. Queening to win that knight now, and the game continued a bit longer. Check. Yeah, the damage has been done. This position might be a little bit tricky, you might think, but black's on it. It's going to sacrifice his knight back just to win that rook and pawn ending, simplifying again for a clearer rook and pawn ending. And the king comes up now, takes that c5 pawn, protecting his own pawn. So we got 3 passed pawns there. After rook c4, white had enough. Yeah, totally winning for black. Now this next one will test your tactical skills. I think Marshall would have wanted me to test you here, and he would have said not to move the pieces around, don't cheat. So he was playing white here. Black had just played the move f3. So what would you play here? So the clue is find the mate in 12. It was announced by Marshall during the actual game, I think. Apparently, according to his notes, I think. So f3, white to play. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, will you be able to work out a forced mate in 12? Okay, rook takes d6, cries out, doesn't it? Yep, takes. King went to c8 here. It doesn't really matter if it goes to e8, that's even quicker, actually, with a mate in 7 there. So let's go to c8, takes there. So if king b8, we have bishop e5 checkmate. Just put that on the board. So the king goes to d8. We have check. Check. Now if the king goes to f7, well, we can actually still go for a forced mate with check here. Actually, we don't even need to win the queen. We can actually go for a forced mate. Well, we can win the queen now, and it's still a forced mate. But let's go with the game continuation. King e8, rook e1 check, knight e5 check. And now, of course, we can take the queen, but even prettier, knight g6, discovered check. Because after king f7, knight takes 8, check, and mate. So cute one there against Colonel Moreau. Okay, congrats to those who found the forced mate in 12. So the next one against Henry Ernest Atkins in 1903, and it looks as though Atkins is strategically crushing Marshall. I think sometimes Marshall has a reputation of a bit of a swindler, because even in strategically lost positions he was finding amazing resources. Black just played bishop a6 here, but white finds a move which the engine Stockfish really likes out of all the lesser evil moves, I should say. In theory, black's still doing really well after this move. I wonder what you would play here. If I gave you 5 seconds to pause the video starting from now. Alright, b3. I think the basis of this is to try and create a nasty pin, and also black's king is not ideal with the pawns there. So let's have a look. First of all, let's have a look at this. We get this nasty pin, and here bishop e5 actually backfires. We can't exploit the pin like that, because actually bishop takes e5, rook takes. This is actually better for black. This position, even this is better for black. There's a lot of material there, but here there's actually queen e7, which would actually be in white's advantage technically, where white is actually threatening all sorts of nasties, like taking here and taking on e6. As an example, rook e8 taking here, now bishop e5, then we're using that pin like that. So it starts to get really nasty. Yeah. And so yes, so it just shows the resources in the position. So black actually played rook c5, but another fantastic resource in the position is revealed here. White's play. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video now. Okay, knight takes d5. Yeah. Okay, so if queen takes, then we just take on c5, no problem. Winning for white. So rook takes, yeah, but now we're potentially getting that bishop. But even, yeah, another good move is rook takes c2. So if queen takes, we can take on c8. So we have queen takes c2. Knight takes f6, check, king f7. Now here's the next little trick. Oh dear. If the knight moves, I think white is doomed, basically. If knight g4, especially, we can just play queen d1 check and then take the knight. So that's not palatable. Knight d7, the same thing. We just take the knight next. So yeah, what does white do? If bishop e5, you might think, then this is better for black, just to exchange up after queen c1 check. Taking. So white actually plays. Can you see what white plays here? Very clever stuff. So he's transforming the position through the amazing resources. But to be fair, black's king wasn't that safe. That pawn on g5. So white to play here. What would you play in this position? 5 seconds starting from now. Okay, queen d6, yeah, leave the knight there. And actually, black should have played apparently queen d3. Where white's better now after taking, even though the exchange up, even though black's the exchange up, white is actually doing well. This position, apparently the engine's quite like this now for white, because we've got the h pawn on the way. Yeah, black falters with king takes. Disaster. Check. And now it's clear, if king f7, it's actually a mate in 5 after check. 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 Yeah, mate in 5. So king f5 was played, but now here f3, threatening g4, checkmate, and black actually resigned here. So the d1's been cut off. The c3, queen c1 check. We just play this. Still playing g4. If black plays g4 to stop g4, e4 check, and then it's a forced mate in 5 here. Check, 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 mate. So how on earth did he do that from that initial position? He found the resources in the position. Black's done all the textbook things, you know, triple on the c file, seemingly, you know, dangerous pin on c3. I guess something we should take heart from in this is if we're pinned up like this, can the pin, I suppose we can ask, can the pin actually backfire on the pinners? We got our pin piece, but it sort of backfired on the pinners here after knight takes d5 a little bit. That pinner has been targeted, as well as black's king. It's backfired on the pinners and black's king safety. Just to try and get some instructive points we could use for our own games. Amazing stuff. Yeah, that's a bit of a naughty one, that one, but naughty but nice. So now Vienna 1903. Marshall was playing black. White just played bishop e3 here. So what was black threatening here? Well, it's good for black anyway, this position. This is one of those which is really good for black. Just wants to celebrate this h pawn, ideally. So black plays a very strong move. There are lots of strong moves here. So 5 seconds, what would you play here? Okay, he plays knight e1 check, which uses the pin nicely for that h pawn. So for example, knight takes, we can take here, we've got the h pawn at the end of this, queening. So knight e1 check helps. So rook takes e1, rook takes f3. And now we're threatening rook g3. It's a forced mate in 4 apparently. Rook g3 is being threatened. Rook takes h2, giving up the exchange. What else does white do? Just to show, you know, if a3, for example, rook g3. Here we can just, you know, discover check. You get the picture. Okay, so yeah, white gives up the exchange here. So that's taken. Thanks very much. And now a nasty pin to quickly finish the game. Rook e8. Okay, if bishop d2. Okay, saving the piece, but the exchange down, it's easily won for black. Rook d3 will do, for example. h5, you get the picture. It's just winning for black this position. Okay, so knight e1 I thought was a bit cute there. This next example is against George Marco. George Marco is playing with the black pieces. White's about to queen, black's about to queen. George Marco plays the move c6. I think that's one of the better moves in the position. Anything else fails actually. If George Marco had queened, then check, and then white queens here and wins the queen there. So the move c6 is necessary for black. So is black going to queen now? Well, we have check. Okay, is it pointless though to take on a2? Isn't black queening? Let's see. rook takes a2, and here black is queening. So what does white do here? Doesn't it seem like a bad position? Because surely, oh dear, we can't queen and black's just queened. Isn't this doomed, this position? White play, how would you salvage this position to try for a draw? Or maybe if you're really lucky, a win. How would you salvage the position from here? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, what would you play in this position? Okay, the ever resourceful Marshall, he queens. That's got a point, that b2 square, to get the bishop away from b2. And now, I hope you found this when you guessed that move. What does white play here? Rook b2 check. Yes, using that weakness of the last move, rook b2, to put the queen, a drag and drop tactic, put the queen on b2, then we have the check. And the game continued. Knight takes b2. Still tricky. The king's, active. This is a dangerous c pawn. The game continued like this. c5. King went back here. Okay, so c4, king f3, c3, knight d3, king c4, knight e1, king d4, h4, white gets his pawns going, bishop e6, g4, bishop e7, g5. Bishop e7 might have been a mistake here. Engine suggests king e5 might actually be drawing at depth 32, so bishop e7 might have been the critical mistake now after g5. King e5. We have king g4, strong move, king g4. In fact, this is the only move it seems to win. King g4. So the knight is handling the pawn at the moment. So actually Marshall's endgame play is absolutely excellent from many of these examples, and some did note that about him. He wasn't just a swindler or a brilliant tactician, he was brilliant at endings. So bishop f8, knight c2, this might be, apparently h5 might actually be more accurate. So knight c2, king e4. This is another little mistake. Apparently king e6. So black played king e4, h5, king d3. What do you play here with white? If I gave you 5 seconds here, it's so cute. If you want to win this, you want to pause the video? What would you play here with white? Okay, knight a1. I know it's ridiculous. It breaches this idea of centralization and stuff. But actually, if the knight was more kind of towards the center with knight a3, well, we just take that. Yeah, so technicality, the knight can't come over here. King d2, and then the knight has to be on a1 to be able to take on c2, and it's out of the firing line of the bishop. So justified by the position. King e4, h6, king e5, king h5. Oh yes, king f5, knight c2. Okay, bishop e6, and we have check. Knight coming back now to e2, c2, g6. White's pawns are quicker here. g7. White queens, and now queen a2 pins that, and white can just take the bishop later. If king d1, white can just take this. So white resigned here. If king d1, you just take and then take here, and we've got the h pawn. But the tricky point about this game was here. It seems as though it's black queening and white can't do anything about it. But this resource here, by queening, the weakness of the last move is created, and we pounce on that. So we're creating our own weakness for the last move for a scientific move after rook b2 and knight a4. So I think he was only expecting to draw that. Winning that was an extra bonus. So this next example, again in 1904, yeah, black in this position refused to move the queen. H5, the queen didn't move. If the queen like went here, then queen g3 looks good anyway. Black's king doesn't seem to be very safe at all, but black tried rook e4, and here if queen g3 as an example, then queen takes h5 ruins the whole thing for white somewhat. This is not so clear. So what does white play in this position? If you have white, what would you play here? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video now. Okay, bishop h6, cute. Threatening rook f8, doesn't matter about the queen being able to be taken by 2 pieces. This is absolutely winning. Black resigned here. But what does black do? He hasn't got many options at all. If king h8, we just play check and then take which way we want. If rook e2, pinning the rook, then we just take the queen. Doesn't help. Yep, it's over after bishop h6. So using that pin on the queen and the f8, yeah, it's over. In Ostend 1905, this next example, Ostend 1905, black just played king h6. So now Marshall has this decision. The easy way is to, would seem, to move the rook out of harm's way. Now if he did move the rook to say e5, then black's goose isn't cooked necessarily here after knight g4. This isn't so easy. If the rook went all the way back, then rook e8, and you know, black seems to be actually doing quite well. Black is a piece up, so yeah. And if rook e3, you might think this h3 is useful. d6, and stop h3. So black, yeah, white rather, has to use each move carefully. And by I say carefully, not just doing the most obvious one to respond to a threat. So what does white play here? And it's a very strong move. The engine likes it, and it's actually a forced mate in 6 as well. So if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, h4, yeah, leave the rook. We want to rip open this h file. But it's also, this pawn is actually quite attacking. It looks as though the lines can be shut down, surely, with g4. Let's first look, if the lines are not shut down, then hg, so we're opening this rook. Knight f3 check. This is forcibly mating like this. Queen g6. Here, mate. So black wants to keep the lines closed, but alas, here, what does white play? Okay, h5, threatening mate like that. So black takes that off, and now queen f5, threatening mate 2 ways, either the rook or the queen. Black plays g6. And now there's 2 ways to inflict a mate on mate in 2. It's 2 moves. If I give you 5 seconds here. Okay, either rook takes h5, this is a mate in 2, or you might have preferred queen f4 using the pin on the knight for queen f6. So yeah, very, very accurate attacking play. Nothing casual about this move h4. If the rook had retreated, white's busted. White's got to use this moment here. King's on that h file. The rook's controlling that 7th. Otherwise, yeah, it's big trouble. There's no time for any of this, potentially. So very accurate play from Frank. Now this next game against Mikhail Shigorian, the adopted far of the Soviet chess school. Frank is playing white. Chigorin in 1905 Ostend just played bishop f5, so attacking the queen. What does white play here? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, very accurate calculation now. And I think the engine stockfish thinks this is the absolute best move in the position. Knight h takes f5. Queen's taken. Knight takes d6, check. Okay, so you might think it's going to be a lot of material for the queen. If say king g8, then we just take him. We've got loads of material actually. So black wants to get more material back. So king e6. And here is a really neat point. You know, quite a neat point anyway. That white now plays the very tactical move knight c8, hitting the queen here. And it's a kind of drag and drop tactic, because it doesn't matter if the queen ends up on c8. Technically, the engines also suggest c4 was good here. So if takes, we got c5. If the rook had moved here, then c5 is very good. For example, like this. It's another way of skinning the cat. From an engine point of view, this is really good as well. But yeah, knight c8 is good as well for white to have an advantage anyway. Queen c7 taking here. So the point is this drag and drop for this skewer here. So if takes, we just skewer king and queen. So we've got material here. Now how does white keep that knight on c8? White to play here. What do you play with white? Okay, incredible pyrotechnics, knight f5. So relying on a fork now. If takes here, then we fork with knight d6 check. I know, it's incredibly resourceful stuff. So white has the 3 pieces for the queen. So that's good enough material in theory. The game continues, knight e6. Knight fd6, the knights are protecting each other. Bishop d3. Now keeping the pressure on black, not to have to lose the 2 knights just solely to the rook. And again, there's a skewer implication here. That if takes, well, if takes here, this is okay. Skewer, we're getting a lot of material there. So the knight moves. Rook e7 now. What's going on here now? Well, if takes here, how is this punished? Well, we take the queen. Yes, sorry, we're attacking the queen. Queen a5 was played. So white's got away with that. He hasn't lost 2 knights for a rook or anything. Bishop b1, safeguarding the bishop. Now threatening rook takes g7, g6, g3, check. So white is material up. Bishop d3 now introducing bishop e2 potentially, among other things. There's also rook b7 and other stuff. Rook takes c8 was played. Knight takes queen e8. Now here h4 counter-attacking black's knight. After queen takes here hg, we've now got this rook h1 on the cards. Black resigned here. He's had enough of this game. It's actually a forced mate. For example, the queen f5 is given as the best move. If queen g4, the forced mate is with f4, so depriving black of the g5 square. Say takes, we can play this mating or quick mate in 1. Well, anything's winning now anyway. By this stage, a lot of things are winning. We can even just take here and then f4. Okay, so yeah, I thought it was wonderful pyrotechnics here, just to play knight h takes f5, and then yeah, the stuff after, brilliant stuff. So knight c8, one of the better moves. Let's keep the advantage there. Okay, now in 1906 against Heinrich Wolf in the Nuremberg Congress, Germany, g6 was played. So white to play here, Frank Marshall to play white here. Bishops look really good, don't they, against the king? What would you play here with white? Okay, knight takes h7. Now off the check here, white to play here. Very strong move. 5 seconds to pause the video, starting from now. Queen h5. Wow. Threatening mate. If taking, then bishop h7, checkmate. Ooh, cute. So black played f6. We have bishop takes g6 now. Cutting off f7, even if the knight's taken. And we can use that fact for queen h8 checkmate. So rook d7 was played here. It's gone. Knight takes e6. Black's position is gone, really. Hitting the queen. Black counters on white's queen. White just took that. Takes. Just took the queen off. Material up here. Knight takes. Now here is going to be material up, rather, after rook f d1, more clearly material up. Knight ce7 was played. e4. Both black's bishops are loose here, so if white gets in rook d8, they're forked. Knight b6. Okay, protecting a8, so that safeguards against rook d8. Or does it? Rook d8 still a very strong move here, but rook c7 was played, which is another strong move. King g8, bishop takes f6, knight g6, and now rook d8. Although it's not winning a piece, there's a nasty threat in this position, and black felt compelled to resign. He is actually losing here. So just to play a token move, bishop takes e4, what would you play with white here? Okay, the pin on the bishop's lethal, rook g7. Yeah, so we can win a piece like that, discover the check, and then we're safely material up here. We're 2 exchanges up. It does seem, if we go back, yeah, it seems, you know, from an engine point of view, this is absolutely winning for white. It's nearly +5. You might be a bit cynical about this, but knight b6 as an example, bishop f6. You know, what is black doing here? Okay, knight c4, check, bishop c3. It seems we've got all these pawns as well to push, so I think that's why white's doing very, very well in this position. The pawns are pretty good. Okay.